Hello and welcome to Ferguson Library Presents Microsoft Office Suite Integrated with me, Frank Skornia. I'm the digital librarian for Adult and Information Services at the Ferguson Library, which means that I handle our computer classes and technology training as well as being a reference librarian. So I handle a lot of day-to-day duties at the library as well too. So tonight we are looking at Microsoft Office using the three major tools Microsoft Office, Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, and Microsoft PowerPoint together as kind of a powerful whole. So over the past several weeks, we've looked at Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint individually and kind of at different levels and kind of different tasks and skills that you can do in those. Today, we're going to look at the ways that they can actually be used together. So ways that you can build tables and charts in Excel and insert them or move them over into Word or PowerPoint for things like presentations or business reports. We're going to be looking at things like mail merge. So I'll get more into this class, kind of what the class is going to cover in just a little bit. But first, I just want to, if it's your first time doing one of these classes with us, I just want to kind of go over how this kind of works here on YouTube. So I am live presenting you right now. There is a little bit of a delay from what you're seeing, from what I'm seeing there and such. It's probably about 10 to 15 seconds. But for the most part, you are seeing me as I am presenting here. Now, one of the first things that you want to do if you want to participate and follow along in this class is that you're going to want to go to the address that I have right here above my head, fergusonlibrary.org/online-tech-classes. And when you do, that is going to take you to, let me see if I can get the right page right here. That is going to take you to this web page here. So this is the library's website for our online technology class series. We're up here at the top. We have our upcoming class schedule, including, you can see here's the class here. Any of the previous classes, if you missed them, the recordings are available here on YouTube. So you're welcome to go back and rewatch them and follow along with them as you go along. You can see coming up, we have 2 more classes next week. I'm going to be doing a class for Introduction to Video Editing using the free Lightworks software. We're going to be looking at that next Tuesday. And then we're going to be looking at how to record your computer using the OBS Studio software, which is what I'm using right now to stream to you right now. So, but this, we're going to look at kind of how to record things like tutorials or things that you're doing on your computer. So if you're interested in either of those, please join me next week. As we scroll down the website here, we got down to the online technology class materials and resources. This is split into 2 parts. On the left here, we have our class materials. So this is where all kind of the different exercise files for all the classes are. So for tonight's class, you want to come down to where it says Microsoft Office Suite Integrated. If you click on it, it will expand this section here. And there are 4 files that you'll want to download for tonight's class. The first one is the Handout Exercises, which is going to be a PDF file. That's going to be this file here that will have a little bit of basic information about the class, and then the exercises that will follow throughout the class. And then finally, we'll be looking at, then there's just some further study if you want to continue learning afterwards. Then there's going to be kind of our exercise files. So the Excel exercise file is going to have some pre-built table and chart that we can use to see how they work to move them over into Word or PowerPoint. And then we have our files that we need for our mail merge there. So what you'll want to do is if you want to follow along on your own computer as you're taking this class is you'll want to come to each of these files here, right click, use the right mouse button on your mouse, right click on the link. And in the menu, you should see something that says Save Link As or something very similar. If you're using Chrome or Safari, it might say something a little bit different, but it's the idea that you want to save what that link is to your computer. So when I do Save Link As, I get the standard Windows kind of file save box here. So I choose the location. You can keep the name the same. It doesn't really matter. Then just click Save, and you can save it. So someplace where you're able to find it. So you'll want to do that for each of these different files. The other thing to pay attention to on this page is right over here on the right is the chat room for the class. So this is if you want to interact with me in any way, if you want to ask a question or have me clarify or repeat something, there are 2 different ways that you can reach out to me while I'm teaching this class. One of them is by using the YouTube chat. So there's the YouTube chat that's going to be either to the left of the video that you're watching or below, depending on how large you have the video on your screen. But you do have to be signed into YouTube for that to be able to work. If you don't have a Google account or a YouTube account and you don't want to be signed in for this class here, you can come and ask the question on this chat room on this page here. And this is anonymous, so you can just come in and just type a question as you need to. So you can type your questions in this box here. Your questions here. I am looking at both of those different chat rooms, so whichever one you decide to choose, I will see it throughout the course of the class. So as things work here on the YouTube class, what I'll be doing is, because most people are sitting there and they're watching the video on their screen, and if they want to go and practice the exercise, what I do is I will demonstrate kind of and explain what we're looking at, what we're doing in the class. I will demonstrate through it, and then I will stop and I'll give you about 2 to 3 minutes, depending on how long I think it takes to do kind of what I just demonstrated, to go off and do it in your own version of Microsoft Excel, Word, or PowerPoint, depending on what we're doing at that time there. It's a good time to ask questions, have me repeat or show something again. So I'll have those kind of like little built-in kind of break moments where I have you go off and kind of do what I just did if you want to be able to follow along. So with that said, let me know if there are any questions, and I will be able to keep an eye on that and see that there. And now we can go in and start taking a look at what we're doing with this class here. So this is Microsoft Office Suite Integrated. As I said at the beginning, this class is intended to tie together the skills that have worked on between Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, and looking at ways that they can kind of be used together. And we're going to be looking at it kind of 2 primary ways. One of them is linking or embedding data from Excel into Word or PowerPoint. And the other thing is a mail merge, where you're able to take like a table of organized information in Excel and use it to build labels or envelopes or letters in Microsoft Word. So some of the stuff you should know already coming into this class is you should already know how to navigate Windows files and directories. So you should just basically know how to kind of navigate around Windows, how to save things, how to open them, how to find files that you saved. You should know how to open and save documents in Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. You should know how to insert tables and other objects into Microsoft Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. So those are things that got covered in some of the earlier classes. How to insert like a table or a chart into like a Word or PowerPoint document. So I'm not going to be covering those in this class. We're going to be using those skills, but I'm not going to cover how to do them specifically. You should know how to create tables and charts in Microsoft Excel. So we're going to use some pre-created table and chart. So we're not going to spend time looking at how to actually do that in Excel. Again, earlier Excel classes cover that information. And you should also know how to organize information in Microsoft Excel. And I'll go a little bit over organization a bit when we get to mail merge, because it's important on how you do the mail merge. But for the most part, again, it's something that was covered in earlier classes that you should already know coming into this class. With all of the stuff that you should know, what am I going to cover in this class? Good question. So one of the things we're going to be looking at how to embed and link data in Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. And so we'll look at the difference between embedding and linking and how to do those different kind of things. We're going to look at how to create mailing labels using data entered in a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. And then we're going to use mail merge also to create a series of personalized letters. So we're going to look at doing mail merge 2 different ways and how you can use it for kind of different functions. So with that said, let me know if there are any questions, and I will continue and move into the first exercises that we're doing. So to start off, we're going to be looking at linking and embedding data. So what's the difference? So the difference between embedded and linked data is that embedded data is what they call static, whereas linked data is dynamic. And so let me explain what that means. When you embed data, so you take data, say you take like a table or a chart from Microsoft Excel, and you put in and you embed it into, say, a Microsoft Word document. You're doing a business report, and you pull that data that you've organized in Excel and put it into Word. When you embed the data, you're essentially taking a snapshot of that data, of what you're taking from Excel. You take a snapshot of that and you put it into Word, which means that if any point in the future you update the information in Excel, it will not automatically update in Word or PowerPoint. if you do want to have that kind of automatic updating where you're gonna put the data into Word and then you want to be able to update it as you update information in Excel, so you just have to update it in one place, then you'll want to use linked. You'll want to link the data, and so I will go over how to do either embedding or linking through this class. And so you basically do it depending on like what you're trying to achieve or what you're trying to do for that situation. And then I'll also kind of go over like some of the limitations of doing one or the other. I mean, we already know the limitation with embedding is that it won't change once you've moved it over to Word. You have to manually update it if you want to do that. But there are some limits also to the linking. And so there's times where you may want to do one or do the other. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to actually demonstrate how to embed a table of information from Microsoft Excel into Microsoft Word. So let me go back to my demo screen here so you can kind of see everything that I have going on here. I'm going to have, so I'm going to start off by opening up this, this linked data exercise spreadsheet file that I downloaded from the online-tech-classes website. So let me open this up so we can kind of see what's here. You'll notice that in the background, I have Microsoft Word open because we're going to be going to Microsoft Word right after this here. So you can kind of prepare when you do this here. Just know that you're going to have Excel and Word kind of open here. So when I open this up, one of the things to kind of first pay attention to is right up here at the top, there's this yellow bar that tells me that right now this document is in protected view. And that the reason for that there is that I downloaded it from the internet. I downloaded it from the web page. And so Microsoft Office is like, okay, this file may not exactly be trustworthy. I created this file, I downloaded it from the place where I put it, so I know this is trustworthy, so I just have to click this Enable Editing to be able to kind of do anything with what I have on this file here. So I'm going to click Enable Editing, and now you'll see we have our standard Excel view. We have our work area, we have our ribbon up here, and I have a mosquito flying in front of me. Woo! So over here that we have two different things, and I'm going to just kind of zoom in to kind of make this a little bit clearer on your screens on the video, so you're able to see that. So over here on the left, we have a table of information, and all it is just kind of like sale information. I pulled this from someplace online, so it's just kind of a random amount of information. And over here on the right, we have a chart or a graph made from this table over here. So it's just a very simple Excel spreadsheet, but it works for our purposes here. So what I want to do for my first exercise I'm going to be showing you here is I want to embed the table that I have over here. I want to embed that into a Word document. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the information that I want to embed. So I'm going to highlight by dragging my mouse over the table that I have here. And I'm going to come up here to the ribbon, right up on the top here, and I'm going to hit the copy button. Now you can do copy any way that you want. You can hit the copy button, you could right click here and choose copy, or you can do Control C. All it matters is that you're copying it there. And you'll notice that once I did that there, I have the telltale like green dotted line going around my table here, which indicates that right now the table is sitting in the Excel clipboard. Where we're able to kind of copy and paste information from Excel. This is actually a point I forgot to mention at the beginning. What you're seeing me use here tonight is Microsoft Office 365. So this is Excel 365. I'm going to be going to Word 365 after this. And we'll be doing PowerPoint 365. 365 is Microsoft's kind of live version of Office. It is very similar in most ways to Office 2016 and Office 2019. So if you have either of those versions there, you should be able to easily follow along with what I'm doing here. If you have an older version of Office, if you have Office 2010 or 2013 or even earlier 2007, you're still going to be able to follow along and do what I'm doing here. In fact, everything that we're doing in this class should be it should be the same in 2010 and 2013, Microsoft Office 2010 and 2013. Because this class was originally written to use for Microsoft 2010, and so not much has changed from there. Things might look a little different, so if you're following along and things don't look exactly the way that you want them to be, let me know and I will kind of explain where you might find them in your version of Office there. So again, I'm using 365, but if you're using another version of Office, everything that you're working with should be similar to what we're seeing here. So what I've done again is I've highlighted my table here and I've copied it by hitting the copy button up here. I could have used keyboard shortcut Control C, whatever works for the matter that I'm in right now. Since I was using the mouse, it was just convenient to do that. So now that it's copied, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over to my Word document. So I'm going to go over to Microsoft Word, and I'm going to create a blank document here. And so in the blank document here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to the paste button that's right up here on the top left on the ribbon, and I'm just going to click paste. And you can see now it's brought in the table of information. What I'm going to do actually is I'm going to take these and I'm going to put them right next to each other. Put that there, just so you can kind of see. I'm going to just zoom in on this to kind of make this bigger and easier to read. There we go. And you can kind of see, looking side by side, they look very similar. All the headings look the same, everything's lined up there and such. So I've essentially taken the table that was over here in Excel and I've put it over into my Microsoft Word document. Now in this, and you can see it was a simple matter of just copy and paste. And so that's one of the things that's one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of teach this class here and kind of look at the ways that the different pieces of software interact with each other. Microsoft knows that people are, especially business people, are doing a lot in both Excel and Microsoft Word as they're doing things throughout their day, doing things for their business, or even just like whether you're in school, whether you're an academic, writing research papers, a scientist doing things, you're having to work between the two different software often. And so they've made it very easy to kind of take information from one, because Excel is really good at organizing information. But Microsoft Word is really good at providing text word processing, because it's a word processor, but it's also really good at providing, it's organizing information to be able to be printed and to be kind of presented on paper. That's Word's kind of major kind of thing is taking words and information and being able to present it on paper. Whereas Excel is more of a digital kind of thing. You can print in Excel, but printing in Excel can be kind of messy, can be confusing, and it doesn't always look really good, especially if you have big amounts of information. You end up with things that are too small, or you end up things spread across a bunch of different pages. It does take a lot of, sometimes it can take a lot of work to get things printed properly in Microsoft Excel. Whereas printing for Microsoft Word is very straightforward. It has the page size defined into it there. You can see how everything's designed and edited. So that's why sometimes when you're looking at, say, printing something from Excel, it's easy to bring it from Excel into Word, where you have a little bit more control. So this was just a simple copy and paste operation. I copied from, I selected what I wanted here in Excel, I copied it to the clipboard, came over to Word, and I just pasted it. Now, I started off talking about this being embedding. What I did was I embedded the table from Excel into Word. And when I was explaining the difference between embedding and linking before, I said that embedded data or embedded information from one to the other is static, which means that it's a snapshot. So right now, what I've put here into Word is a snapshot of what I had originally in Excel. So let me demonstrate how that happens. I'm going to come over here into Excel, and I'm going to take, say, this this Europe April number here, and I'm going to increase it to like a big number, just something that's like really drastically different that we can see. So I'm going to take 100, and we're going to make it into, say, 50,000. So I do that there, and you'll notice that it updated this, it updated the total, but I go over and look at what I have over here on Word, and you can see April Europe, this still stayed the same, 100. The total didn't change at all. So there is no longer any connection between what I took from Excel over here and put into Word. So this is embedded. This was a snapshot of that one point in existence of the table here. And so you could use, I mean, that's obviously something that you can use. If you want to be able to, you build a table and put some data in there and such, you can put it over into Word, and then you could reuse that same organization, same table, and put in some new information, and then put it over into Word and have something that you can compare one-to-one. Or if you're just sending that one time kind of, here's the data that we have at this point now, you can put that into Word and send it off, and it won't affect your spreadsheet, and they'll be able to print it and see it over here. The other thing that happens when you embed a table from Excel to Microsoft Word is you'll lose a lot of the functionality that you get in Excel. So for example, the total column over here, if I go look at the total column over here, you can see that instead of it being a number, this is actually a formula over there. But when it got brought over, this is just the number here. So if I go and say change this same the same number. I changed it over here to 50,000, and it didn't automatically change over and such. But if I go over and change this to 50,000 over here and hit enter, well, so you can see hit enter. This is basically just a table. You can see the total doesn't update. So the math that happened automatically here in Excel does not happen over here in Word. So what it basically did was it took the table from Excel and it put it into a Microsoft Word table. It just kind of put like the values in there and such. It didn't transfer over the formulas. It doesn't continue the math that was going on in Excel. So even things like down here, the total down on the bottom, you can see this didn't update as well either. So that's what embedding is going to get you. Embedding is going to allow you to take a single snapshot from Excel, move it over to Word, but you do lose some of the functionality that you get in Excel, which is why Excel is kind of a better place for to do that initial organization, that initial putting together of the data, and then you can use Word to present it. So let's take a look at another example of embedding. What I'm going to do, and so we're going to look at how to embedding into PowerPoint. And I just realized I need to open up PowerPoint, so you're going to see me open up PowerPoint here. There we go. PowerPoint. Just so we have it open, I'm going to open up a blank presentation here. And if you remember from my my PowerPoint classes, I like to always work with blank slides. So I'm just going to go here to new slide. Actually, before I show this here and such, take about 2 minutes, because that should be what it is. Open up the linked data exercise file here. And what you'll want to do is you'll want to select the table that's on the left, copy it to the clipboard using the copy function. So select it, either copy using the copy up here on the ribbon. You could right click and go to copy, or you can do Control-C on your keyboard to copy it there. Then open up a blank Word document and paste it into the blank Word document so that you have the so that you're able to embed the table from there. Take about 2 minutes, and then I will look at embedding into PowerPoint and how that works a little bit differently. And so let me know if you have any questions. All right, so I hope you've been able to practice embedding the table from Excel into Microsoft Word. So now we're going to look at kind of a different form. Where's my mouse? There it is. A different form of embedding. We're going to look at how embedding works into PowerPoint, which is slightly different, and I'll demonstrate how that happened, what's slightly different there. So we're going to minimize Word, and we are going to have PowerPoint, and we have our blank PowerPoint over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set this over there so it's side by side, so you can kind of see side by side as I'm working between the two pieces of software. So it starts off the same way. I'm going to come over to Excel, and what I want to do is I want to take this table. In fact, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change this back to 100, back to our original value, because we're going to play around with the numbers a bit more too. So I'm going to take the chart over here, the graph. Excel calls them charts, and I'm going to select it by clicking on it. And you can see I have it selected because I get the little handles showing up around the. Let me just zoom in on this here. Nope, it's actually, we want to make sure that we see the whole slide. Yeah, that's good. because we want to see how that looks on there. It's going to look a little small, unfortunately, but that's fine. We can live. We can deal with that, right? So I've selected the chart over here, and just like I did before with the table, is I'm going to copy it. I'm going to come up and click the copy button on my ribbon. So now it's copied. I don't get that little telltale dotted line, but I do know because I clicked it and the paste lit up here that it was copied. And so then I'm going to come over here to PowerPoint, and I'm just going to click the paste button. Boop. And you can see it drops. I'm going to just get rid of the design idea here, and it just drops the chart right into here. It's a simple, just like with Microsoft Word. I'm just going to make it bigger, just so we can kind of see it a little clearer. But you can see the peaks and everything kind of match over to one to the other. It looks bigger over here because I'm zoomed in over here, but it's the same chart. And it was a simple copy and paste from one to the other. Now, just like when we did the table into Microsoft Word, this is embedding the chart here into PowerPoint, but it works slightly different. While I still have PowerPoint open here, so while I still have this file open, like I haven't saved it yet, I haven't closed PowerPoint, the charts, the chart and the data are actually still linked to each other. So what does that mean? That means if I come in and say update the information, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that same one that I did before, so that 100 in April, the April Europe one there and such. I'm going to change it from 100 to say just 5,000. But it's still a sizable change. We're going from 100 to 5,000. And you'll notice like over here, it makes a very noticeable spike. And then over here, we also see that same spike. So during the time that I have them both open at the same time, any changes that I make in Excel that update the chart over here are going to update the chart over here in PowerPoint. Now, let me show you what happens when I save and close my PowerPoint file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, actually what we're going to do is let's change this back to 100 again, just because it just makes everything a little, we can see the different lines. It makes the chart a little bit easier to read. And I'm going to come over, I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to go to Browse, and I'm going to go save this on my desktop. I have a folder on my desktop for Microsoft Office Integrated, and I'm just going to keep it as Presentation 1. It doesn't really matter what name I save it as. I'm just going to save it as Presentation 1. So now it's saved, and now I'm going to close it. And so that's an important bit there. So now that it's closed, I've broken the link that happens between PowerPoint and Excel. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to reopen up. Here it is, Presentation 1. I'm going to open this up again. Okay, and let's just put it over here and Excel. There we go. So I come back here, and so here is my chart again, and you can see because I changed everything back to the way it was before, it matches the chart that I have over here. Now I'm going to change this number again. We're going to go back to that 5,000 that I did before. So it's 5,000, and now you'll notice that the chart over here in Excel has that big spike that I kind of artificially put in there. But the chart over here in PowerPoint did not. It no longer updated. So it's important to know. So this is now embedded. Just like we saw, it's now a snapshot of the chart from when we copied and pasted from Excel until we closed PowerPoint. So that's an important thing to keep in mind, that as long as you have your PowerPoint file open and you go and make changes in Excel, it's going to update in PowerPoint. Whereas once you close PowerPoint, it kind of snaps that link in between them there. So any changes that you make in Excel will no longer change in PowerPoint. So it works similar to what we have with Word, but there's still that time when they're both open, when you're still working in both of them before you save and close Excel or PowerPoint, that they will continue to update and be dynamic, or they'll change as you change in one and in the other place. You notice now when I click on it here, I can do some kind of different changes to the graph and things on here and such, but this thing's kind of play around with on your own. So that's embedding data from Excel and PowerPoint. So it's just a reminder, when you embed from Excel to Word or PowerPoint, you're taking a snapshot of the data that's in Excel at that time, and you're putting it into the other software. In PowerPoint, the snapshot, like the connection, like it will update the snapshot until you save PowerPoint. So what I'm going to do is, let me give you about another 2 minutes. What you'll want to do is you'll want to go into your linked data exercise Excel file that you downloaded from the online tech-classes page. Select the chart by clicking on it, and you know that it's selected when you have these 8 handles around the outside of the box. Copy it. So right click won't work. Control C or click the copy up here. Then open up PowerPoint. Open up a blank slide in PowerPoint, and you just then want to paste, and then it will copy and paste. And you can see over here now, it has that spike in there again. Now that I've pasted the second one, and if I go in and change this again, we're just going to change it, say, to 200 to make it different than it was before. This will still update. And again, this will happen until I save and close my PowerPoint presentation, and then it will kind of break the link. So take about 2 minutes and practice that yourself. If you have questions, let me know in the chat, and then we'll continue in just a couple of minutes. All right, so I hope you've been able to practice embedding a chart from Excel into PowerPoint by just using the simple, straightforward copy and paste. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the other side of the equation here. We're going to look at linking information from Excel into Word and PowerPoint. Now, linking, as I mentioned at the start, it's dynamic. And so I kind of demonstrated what linking kind of looks like when I was doing with the PowerPoint there, whereas when I changed it in Excel, it automatically changed it in PowerPoint. But what happens if you want to because in PowerPoint, it's linked until you close PowerPoint. In Word, if we just copy and paste, it embeds it. What happens if you want to make that link something that lasts beyond closing the file? So you save and close the files, and you come home, and then you go back to work the next day, you open them up, they're still linked together. So let me demonstrate how to link information from Excel here into, first we're going to look at linking this table. We're going to take the table that we had before, and we're going to link it into Microsoft Word. So I'm going to actually just minimize PowerPoint, and we'll go back to our Word document that we have here. And there we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come down, and we're just going to go down to, we're going to go down to a new page. Let's just go down and start a new page on Word. And I'm going to come back here to Microsoft Excel, and I'm going to it starts off the exact same way. I'm going to highlight my Microsoft Excel table. I'm going to come up and I'm going to click the copy button. So far, everything's really about the same. Now here's where things get a little bit different. I'm going to come here into Microsoft Word, and I'm kind of where I want to put the table. And I'm going to come up to the paste button. And instead of just clicking paste like I did before, which all it would do would be embed the table from one to the other, You'll notice that paste is a two-part button. There's the default paste, which is the top part right up here. That will that if I click on it, it will just paste it. It will just drop it in. It will embed it just like I did, like I showed you before. The bottom part of the button opens up the menu, the paste menu, and so there's a variety of different ways that I can paste here. And what you want to do actually is you want to come down to paste special, and because we're doing kind of a unique style of paste. And you notice as soon as I open up paste special, I'm going to get this paste special box here, and over here on the left I have two different options. I have paste and I have paste link. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down and I'm going to do paste link because I want to link them together. And so that's what we're doing, is we're linking the information. Now, Microsoft Office is reasonably intelligent, and what it's done is it's noticed that the information that I have in the clipboard, what it's ready to paste, is information from Microsoft Excel. And you can see right up here at the top of the list, it says Microsoft Excel worksheet object. So we have paste. And so what happens is, again, like with a lot of these, like these dialog boxes in Microsoft Office, you can kind of read through it like you read through a sentence. So what we're doing is we're starting with the beginning of the sentence, paste link as a Microsoft Excel worksheet object. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down and I'm just going to hit OK. And now what it does is it's now pasted the table. And if I go and scroll between the two, you can kind of see they look very similar. I mean, this one has that big 50,000 I put in there. This one here has the 200. But there is a difference in how they behave now. So the one that I embedded before, the one that I just copied and pasted during the first exercise, I can go in and I can change the numbers as I want. It doesn't change anything else. It doesn't update the totals anywhere. It doesn't update the percentages here. When I come down to here and I click, you'll notice that when I click on it, it doesn't allow me to click inside the table. Instead, you can see I have these like little I have the 8 handles around it, which indicate that I could resize it if I want to. So if I want to make it bigger, I want to make it smaller, I can move it around. I guess I can't move it around. But basically what it's done is it's put it in here as kind of, it's an image. I mean, I used the word snapshot before, but this is really kind of, this is like Microsoft Word sees this as like an image. It sees this as a window. There's like a window put through Microsoft Word into Excel. And what we're seeing here is we're actually seeing the live table over here in Excel in Microsoft Word. So this is kind of like a window in Word seeing into Excel. And so what happens is because of that any changes that I want to make, I have to make in Excel. Because it's like if you have a window and you're looking through and you want to say move a piece around, the glass is in the way. And so that same thing kind of happens over here. So for example, let me go over and demonstrate what happens if I change. So I'm going to take the April Europe number that I keep using here and such, and we're going to update this again to the 5,000 that I keep doing because it's just a nice drastic kind of indication. And then over here, why didn't that work? Oh, why didn't update link? There we go. Why didn't that work? Oh. Okay. It is generally supposed to update it kind of automatically, but you notice this time it actually isn't. So what I have to do is I come over here, and if I right click on it, I can then do update. Let me see here. Why is that not link? Huh. If I do update link, it will update the information, but it was supposed to be doing it live. That's interesting. But you notice that when I update it, all the math remains the same over here. The totals and everything down here, everything still matches. But I do need to do that kind of right click and indicate update link. That was supposed to, hold on. I am just a little confused at why that. Do that. Yeah. Okay. So apparently, oh, okay. Okay, so apparently it's no longer like directly live happening. It won't automatically update. You do have to then right click on the link and say update link. for it to update all of the information. Open link. Oh, there it is. Okay. Sorry, that just did not behave the way I expected it to. So, well, let's continue on. I'm going to actually change this back to 200 over here. And we're going to, oh wait, hold on. What happened? Oh, okay. All right. I am just confusing myself and probably confusing you then. So, but the link basically means now that that any changes that I make into Excel, I can then easily update them over into Word. I don't have to go in and retype in, which leads to possible errors. Just by right-clicking on here and choosing Update Link allows me to update the information from one to the other. Let's see. Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay. And the same thing kind of also happens in Microsoft PowerPoint as well too. So I could copy the chart or the chart that I have over here. So copy this here. Let me go into PowerPoint. Let's create a new slide. And I'm going to come to the bottom part of paste like I did before. Paste. Come to paste special. Once again, I'm going to do paste link. And you can see, once again, it's recognized that's what's in my clipboard. The source right now is coming from my Excel spreadsheet. Are we streaming? Okay, reconnected. Are you still there? Okay, you're seeing me now again? Good, we're back. Okay, my software just kind of disconnected briefly, but it looks like everything is back. Excellent. All right, so where were we here? So I had copied the chart from Excel. By selecting it, hitting copy on my ribbon, and then I came over to PowerPoint and let me cancel this here so you can see. I'm coming to the bottom part of paste and I'm choosing paste special, and I'm choosing paste link over here. And the only thing it gives me here is a Microsoft chart object because that's what it recognizes in the clipboard. And then I'm going to hit OK, and it's going to go put the chart into here. And now this is going to behave very similar to the way that it's behaved before. They're linked together. So if I make a change over here, change this to 5,000, we're going to get that big spike happening there. And this one's still linked because I haven't closed Microsoft Word. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this back to 200 just so we have kind of a nice point of reference there. So this is linked together now. So these are the same. Between each others. So what happens when they're linked and I close the files? So let's take a look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close my Excel file. It's going to ask me, I'm going to say save, yes. I'm going to close my PowerPoint presentation. We're going to save that. And I'm going to close and save my Word document. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the desktop. We're going to go to Microsoft Office Integrated, and we'll just save it there as the file that it's doing. So there we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reopen my Word document that I had. I'm going to open this up. And when it first opens up, I'm going to get this, because there is a link in the file, because we had that linked table from Excel, it's going to ask me, this document contains links that may refer to other files. Do you want to update this document with data from the linked files? And so I'm going to say, in this case, I'm going to say yes, because I know there's a link that shows up in there. And what that did was that basically revitalized the link between Excel and from Word and Excel. It basically said, hey, there's an object in your Word document that's part of an Excel file. Do you want me to go find that Excel file and make sure that the data is updated? And so that's what I said yes. But that box that came up is also a good warning sign for just information security purposes. If somebody sends you a Word document and you get that box that pops up on there and such, unless you're expecting it to be a linked file, you're expecting there to be a link, you're expecting there to be a connection from one to the other, just say no on that there and reach out to the person who sent you the file and say, hey, should I be seeing this? Because if they say no, then there's a chance that there's like a malware infection in place there. So just something to kind of keep in mind is that if that comes up and you're not expecting it, it's better to say no and just kind of get clarification before you move on, and possibly expose your computer to kind of any sort of infection, because they do send infections through Microsoft Word documents and everything. So with that, now let me go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the Excel file. Now that I have this open here, I can actually go open up the Excel file with the linked information pretty easily. Because what I need to do is if I come here and select the linked object here, and if I say just double click on this, what it'll do actually is say, oh, this is part of an Excel document. Let me go see if I can find that Excel file and open it up. And that's what it's done. So now let me just put these side by side so we can kind of see them side by side again. And I'm going to go in and I'm just going to update my information again. And we're going to come over here and update link. And you can see, there it goes. It's updated the information from one to the other. They kept the link. Now what happens if I reopen up PowerPoint? Open you up. So on here, I get a little bit different security notice. On here, it says Microsoft Office has identified a potential security concern. So this is again in place in order to protect you and your computer. This presentation contains links to other files. If you update the links, PowerPoint will attempt to retrieve the latest information. If you don't update the links, PowerPoint will use the previous information. So it's basically giving the option. Go find the information and update it, or just leave what's there. It can be used to access and share confidential information without your permission and perform other harmful actions. So again, if you get sent a PowerPoint presentation and this box comes up, the security notice comes up, and you're not expecting it, you don't know that there's a linked file involved there, click cancel. And what it'll do is it'll still open up, if I click on the cancel and such, it will still open up my PowerPoint presentation, but it will not connect the links between them there. So there won't be kind of a remote access into the file there. You know, if you do know if that is what you're expecting, you can then just click update links, and it will update. And you'll notice now, because remember when I did that update here, let me move that over there, grab this over here. When I updated this number here, I got that big spike in my chart. You can see my final slide that I did in here, I still have that big, I got a big spike because it updated the data from one to the other. If I go back to the previous slide, because I had closed it, this was embedded. This is no longer linked, so it's still showing that older data. So that is, so now if I come over here and we're going to change this to 200, you can see this updates kind of live automatically from one to the other. Because they're still linked together. Now, what happens if you've made this link between, say, Excel and PowerPoint or Word, and then you go and just send, say, the Word document to someone, and don't send the Excel file? Because the thing is that the Excel file needs to, I'm going to do save and close and save. Okay, so now we're back to kind of our we're just back to our files here and such. One of the things about linking is that it is really useful that it kind of keeps updated. It keeps the data updated from one program to the other. But you do need to keep those files kind of together. That if you actually misplace or delete one of the files, or say you send somebody the Microsoft Word document and don't send them the Excel file, that link is no longer going to work. And I'm just going to kind of demonstrate that here briefly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate that there by renaming my Excel file here, renamed, to something different, which means that because it has a different file name, there is no longer an Excel file in this folder that Microsoft Word is going to be able to find. It's looking for linked _ data _ exercise. It's not looking for link _ data _ exercise _ renamed. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up my Word document again. I'm going to get my little security thing here saying, hey, maybe refer to other files. I'm going to click yes, because I'm okay with that there. And let's just make you big again so we can see everything. And so I'm going to come back down, and here's my table here. But if I double click on it, you'll notice it no longer opens up Microsoft Excel. It no longer opens up the Excel document. If I right click on it, it's no longer showing up as a linked document. And the reason for that there is that the link between the Word file and Excel is now broken. Let me make sure I'm seeing the chat. It's broken because it's no longer finding the Excel file that it's expecting to find in the folder. Now, if I close this again and we bring this back to its original name, so basically it's kind of simulating, okay, you send the Excel file with the Word document, so they're together. Open this up again. I'm going to get my little prompt here about the document refer to other files. I'm going to say yes. And okay, now it's done the links. I come back down to here, and now this is now updated. It's now connected to the Excel file again. So if I double click on this, it should now open up the Excel file. So that's basically kind of the connections, how to link data from one to the other. So a quick review, what you'll end up doing is you'll copy the data that you have, the table or the chart that you have in Excel. So just copy it like you normally would copy, as if you're going to paste it somewhere else in Excel. And then you'll come to Word or PowerPoint, and you'll come to Paste, and under Paste Special, you'll want to come down to this Paste Special down here. And then you'll want to do paste link in order to link the two programs together. And then just remember that they then have to stay connected from one to the other when that happens. So let me know if there are any questions. And we're going to now move on to the next part of the class, which is looking at doing mail merge. I do have a whole exercise on here about linking data from one Excel workbook to another, but it's weird, it's tedious. You know what? Actually, let me actually show that there. It's not something it's done all that often. It's usually meant to pull in data from other sources in Excel, but it is something that can be done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to Excel, my Excel file, and I'm just going to quickly show you how to link a table from one Excel document to the other, and just kind of like and just some of the things to kind of keep in mind with that there. So what I'm going to do is I have this open, and I'm going to go and I'm actually going to open up a new, hitting Control-N to open up a new blank Excel workbook. So you can see I actually have, I'll put them right next to each other. So I have my exercise worksheet here, and then I have my blank one over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here to the data tab on my ribbon. Actually, let me make this one here bigger so we can kind of see all the things on here. And so what I need to do first is I actually need to go and make a connection to my other Excel spreadsheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to Get Data, and we're going to go Get Data from File, and it's going to be from a workbook. So I'm going to click on From Workbook. And now I'm going to go browse to where my workbook is. Link Data Exercise, Import. Okay, so now what happens is now I can go Sheet 1. And you can see now it's giving me a preview of my table here and all the information. But you can see it's not all exact. Like, I mean, it's a lot cleaner on the other program. So all it's doing is taking the raw numbers and the raw calculations from one to the other. And I'm going to do load. And it's going to go and drop it right into here. So you can kind of see I was able to pull that information from one to the other and put it in here. This I would need to say, like, update this here to like percentages. So change this to a percentage. So now it's, and actually that's not even right. Percentage with 1 decimal place. There we go. Because now it's matching what it had there before, and I don't even know what it did on the other one. What are you? Format cells. You are just a number. Okay. Okay, with no decimal places. Okay, so that's all that's doing. So then I have to go and I have to update this here to a number with no decimal places, just to kind of make it look kind of the same between one and the other. And now what happens is I can go in and I can make changes here, but they will not update over here. automatically. Let me put these side by side again so we can kind of see how this is working. I'm going to close this. But if I make, say, changes over here, we're going to make this, say, 15,000. You can see there's a bunch of different changes. It doesn't change automatically over here, but if I come over here to data and I do, let me just make this, what I want to do is I want to refresh my data here. So I'm going to click refresh. And what it does is it dials home. It should refresh all. Why are you not? Huh. Obviously things are not working. Refresh. Things are not working like the way that they were initially. Actually, do I have to save this over here? Okay, there we go. Now let's try. Yeah, there we go. So I had to save my original file, and then it was able to pull the information. So linking between Excel files, it's a little bit beyond the scope of this class. It is possible you can pull data from one Excel file and pull it into another, and then use that data as you need to. But it does take a little bit of work and a little bit of practice and kind of tweaking around to kind of make sure things are working properly. So let me know if there's any questions, and we will move on to mail merge. So for that, we can close all of our files because we no longer need to keep them open. And we're here, we're going to be starting looking at exercises 6 and then 7. So mail merge is probably one of the more useful ways of pulling information, or of using information between Excel and, in this case, Microsoft Word. Because Excel, as I mentioned, is very good, it excels, pun intended, at organizing information. So what you have, and what I'm going to do is let me open up my mail merge exercise worksheet here. So things like having like names and addresses all together and kind of listening it together. It's well organized. We can read it. We can understand all of this here as humans kind of reading it there. But because it's in Excel and organized the way that it's in Excel, we can use that to build things. We can build labels or envelopes or mailings in Microsoft Word by using the information as it's organized here in Excel. Let me see here. So one of the first things that you want to do when you're doing a mail merge is you want to make sure that your information in Excel is organized and formatted correctly. And so what you do with that there is that it's a way to think about it. You're using Excel as kind of like a miniature database. And so a database is made up of a whole bunch of records, and each record has a bunch of different fields. So if you think about, say, like a form, like when you fill out like a form that you're, say, signing up for something, you enter information like your name, your telephone number, your email address. Each box that you fill out on the form is a field. It's a field of information. And then altogether, the whole that represents, say, your application or your registration is the record. And so you can kind of see like this here, like, so somebody went in, they filled out a form, they put in their name, the first and last name, put in their phone number. There was a date recorded. This is the date, say, that they filled out the form. They put in their address, the city, the state, and their zip code. So in Excel, when you're organizing your information for a mail merge, is you have your columns, which represent your different fields. So your columns represent the individual pieces of information that you're collecting for each part of your mail merge. In this case, name and addresses. Each row going across is a different record. So what happens is like, we look here at row 1. This row 1 here represents a single person. This represents Naomi Rev. And all of her information is connected together because it's all on the same row. If I look here at column F, everything going down column F, these are all just street addresses. So I can look at the street addresses for all the different ones, but it's not connected to their other information. So when you organize your information in Microsoft Excel is that you think about going across your columns on the top, each of the individual pieces of information that you're going to want to collect for your mail merge. So if you're doing labels, you're obviously going to want name, and you could either do a full name or you can do a first and last name, street address, city, state, and then zip code if you're in the United States. You can also do things like you could say collect like a salutation, a Mr., Mrs., Ms., And you can then use that as part of your mail merge as well too. You can't add that in afterwards if you don't have the information. And then on each row, you put your individual pieces of information. So like you have the information here for Ashley Todd, and you'll fill that in going across. Now, one of the things that you'll want to do is up at the very top, make sure that you put in what they call a header row at the top. So this top row here that shows the name of the column, this is row 1 in my Microsoft Excel document here. And what it does is it's very useful in some ways. It's useful for you as the user because it reminds you of what that information is. I mean, looking at this here, this is pretty easy. I know that these are all cities, these are states. But if I just had this like list of numbers here, I mean, I could make, they're 5 digits. I could make a guess that it's zip codes. But up here, it clearly tells me this is zip code. And if I get further down to here and such, and I click, okay, what is this date here? I can see this is the request date up here. This is first name, this is last name, because the header row is listed up there. So it's useful for you as the user to know what goes into each of the columns. Or if somebody else is looking at like a spreadsheet, if you're looking at a spreadsheet that somebody else has created, you know what's meant to go into those different rows or into those different columns. It's also useful to Microsoft Word because by putting in this header row up here and then later on defining it, saying that it is a header row, instead of it saying, okay, you want to pull information from column F or column G, it will say, okay, you want to pull the street address and the city. So it'll pull that information. So what you want to do is once you've entered and checked to make sure that your Excel spreadsheet is formatted and organized properly, you can save it and close it. It does not need to be open to do a mail merge. It just has to be there. It has to be the place that you save it. It has to be saved on your computer, and it has to be organized the way that you want to organize it. So then we're going to go to Microsoft Word. So we're going to open up a blank Word document here. And we're going to go to the Mailings tab up here on the top left, or on the top ribbon up here. So what I'm going to do is actually we're already zoomed in, so I'm going to go to Mailings. And there are 2 major ways that you can do mail merge in Microsoft Word. And I'm going to show you them both through the course of this class. The first one we're going to look at is what they call the Mail Merge Wizard, which it's really great because it walks you through step by step. I've been doing mail merge for a long time now. I've been doing it for at least 10 to 15 years now. I've been doing mail merges in Microsoft Word. I don't do them all the time, but I've known how to do them, and I've done them for quite an amount of time now and such. I still use the Mail Merge Wizard every single time simply because it's just really convenient that it takes me step by step through the process. I don't have to try to remember the process or try to remember the order of doing different things. So I'm going to show you the Mail Merge Wizard. We're going to go through step by step on that there and such. And then we're going to do, we're going to create a set of labels for the first time. And then we're going to go and we're going to actually take a letter and we're going to kind of personalize it, putting different information into the letter. And we'll do kind of the other way that you can build the mail, but you can actually build the mail merge kind of like manually as well too. But I'll tie that to how it works when we see it with the wizard. So let's go in and start building our labels. So what I'm going to do is I'm in Mailings, and I'm going to come over here where it says Start. So there's a Start Mail Merge section. We're going to actually be working on this here from left to right across the ribbon here. So we start off here with Start Mail Merge, and so we click on the Start Mail Merge button, and it's going to open up a menu. And so there's a bunch of different things that we can go here. What we want for this time here is we want the step-by-step Mail Merge Wizard that's down here on the bottom. So when I click on that, you'll notice over here on the right side of my screen, it's going to, and okay, so you know what I need to move myself briefly. Let me unlock. There we go. Let me just move. I'm going to move myself over to here. Just so that I'm not blocking kind of the information that's showing up over here. There we go. So I'm now moved over to the other side of the screen. There, yep, I'm just watching my preview move me over. So now what happens is you can see over here, when I open this up over on the right, I get this mail merge bar. And so this is the wizard. This is what's going to take us step by step through the mail merge process. And it's a lot of it's a matter of just kind of answering questions and kind of selecting things as you go through. So the first thing it says here is what type of document are we working on? And for this exercise, for this situation here, we're going to be working on labels. So I'm going to go and click on labels. Labels, there we go. And then I'm going to come down and I'm going to click the next. And you can see when I come down to the bottom of the bar there and such, this is telling me this is step 1 of 6. So there's 6 steps in this mail merge wizard process. You can go back and forth along those steps. So if you get to step 4 and you realize that you need to go back and fix something in step 2, you can go back and redo it. So you're not kind of fixed along the line. You can kind of move back along the different steps. So what we've done is we've selected the type of document that we're creating, and we're going to come down and I'm going to click starting document. So it's going to take me to step 2 of the mail merge wizard. So step 2 means actually selecting the document and the formatting of how the page is going to be set up. So what they're doing is a select starting document. So you have a couple different options here. You can either change the document layout, which is what we're doing here. We want this middle selection that's selected by default, or you can start from an existing document. So if you've made labels before and saved them on your computer, and you've done, and it was, say maybe it was like a complicated label, and you had to do a lot of little formatting adjustments to make sure that it worked properly there and such. If you didn't want to do that again, you can do start from an existing document. You can go choose that file that you created before, and it will kind of bring over a lot of that kind of difficult formatting that you did before. In this case, we don't have something that we've worked with before, so we're going to change the document layout. We're going to be changing the document that we're working with here. And then down here we have change document layout. So now we get to choose the label size or the label option. So I'm going to click and you can see it's like a little like blue text on here, which indicates there's a link. I'm going to click on it, and it will now open up a new document. It will open up a new dialog window here. That's the label options. And so there's some things kind of going through. We have what type of printer we're using. Almost every printer that you're using nowadays is a page printer. Unless if you know, you're going to know if you have a continuous feed printer if you're doing this here and such. So then you would know to choose continuous feed. If you're uncertain, you likely have a page printer. Just choose page printer. And then over here you can choose which tray the labels are in. And so what happens is a lot of printers have like a manual tray. They have like a pull down thing that you can stick like special paper into, but you can also select one of your specific trays. So like the printer I have on there and such, I have one tray in the bottom, and then I also have a manual tray. So we're going to choose manual in my situation here. And then down here you get to start choosing the label information. Now if you go to an office supply store, Staples, Office Max, Office Depot, and you go and buy labels, one of the more common brands that you'll find there is what they call is Avery. Avery's kind of the #1 brand for labels out there. And so when you buy like Avery labels, or you say buy the store brand labels, on the front of the box, in fact, actually, hold on a second. Let me go, because I actually have some. I can actually show you this here. So let me be right back. Oh God. All right, so I realized I actually have a prop I can demonstrate here. So I have a set of labels here, and actually let me go into this here so you can kind of see a little bit larger. And if I go in, you can see there's this number right down here. It says 5160. So when you buy Avery labels, you're going to see that number on there. And what that does is that indicates like kind of the model number for the label. So if I wanted to print on these labels here, I know that they're Avery labels. You can see right here, it says Avery as the brand. And so what I'll do is I go and I would just find 5160 on the product number over here. 5160, there it is, address labels. Click on that, and then it'll automatically format my page to match those labels that I have printed. So since those are the labels that I have, let's actually use those there. And so then I'm just going to click OK. And now you'll see now that my page on here is separated into different boxes, which represents the different labels that I'll have on the sheet. And if on your screen if you're following along and you don't see these dotted lines, what you want to do is you want to click inside one of the labels. It doesn't matter which one you click inside. And up on the top, you can see we have two new tabs up on the top. These context sensitive tabs. Click on the layout tab, and over on the left, far left, there's a button that says View Grid Lines. And you can see it when I turn it off, I don't see those dotted lines. I always kind of recommend clicking that on so then you can kind of see those labels. These dotted lines will not print. All they are is a digital representation of the size of the box that's created there. So that's just something to kind of, I always find it useful to be able to kind of see that size, because if I do things like change the font size or design or whatever, it's useful to be able to kind of see that sort of stuff. Okay, let me go back. There we go. Okay, so now that I've chosen my labels, I'll now go to my next step. So I'm going to come down here to the bottom right, and I'm going to click Next, Select Recipients. So I've told the mail merge that I'm making labels, and I've chosen my label document. And so now we're into the third step of mail merge. And so now we're into select recipients. And once again, we have three different choices here. We have use an existing list, which is kind of the option that you'll have most often that you'll choose, because you've made a list. You have an existing list of recipients that are going to go onto the labels in the Excel spreadsheet that you created and checked and formatted properly. Remember? You can select from Outlook contacts, and this is another kind of example of the way that Microsoft Office programs all work together. Outlook is designed to be Microsoft Office's, it's meant to be for email, it's meant to be your calendar, it's also meant to be your like Rolodex or your contact, your address file is meant to be stored in the Outlook contacts address book. So you could go and keep all of your contacts, all of the information that's going into your mail merge and everything there and such in your Outlook contacts, and then you can actually pull from the Outlook contacts on there. You can also type a new list. So if you wanted to, you could make a list manually and you could type that up here. For this situation, because I always recommend with mail merge, because it's just a lot easier to keep things organized, build an Excel spreadsheet, put it into there, and then use an existing list here. Even if you have all the stuff in Outlook contacts, you can just have a little bit more control over what you're doing in Excel for doing the mail merge. So I just tend to prefer the Excel, but there are other ways that you can kind of continue and work with this kind of thing. What I'm going to do is we're going to do existing list, and then I'm going to come down and it tells me use the names and addresses from a file or database, and I need to browse and I need to tell the mail merge what file to use. So I'm going to click on browse, and we're going to go to where we downloaded the mail merge exercise spreadsheet file, the XLSX file here. So I'm going to click on that. We don't want the linked data one. We want the mail merge exercise one here. I'm going to click open. And actually what we're going to do is we're going to choose catalog request. We're going to choose the second page that's on there. And you'll notice right down here at the bottom of the box or the bottom of the dialog is a box that says first row of data contains column headers. Remember I told you about putting those headers at the top there? This is telling the mail merge is telling Word that the first row has headers, and not to use that as information, but to use it to define the information. So I'm going to hit OK. And what I'm going to do now is it's going to open up this mail merge recipients dialog here. I'm going to make this a little larger. Oop, we can see it all. There we go. So what this does is this has all of the different pieces of information that was in the Excel file that I showed you before. So here's all the individual kind of pieces going down, and there's a bunch of different things you can do here. You'll notice right over here on the left, there's these check boxes. So when this box is checked, it means that it's going to be included in the mail merge. I can unselect everything by clicking the box here on the top. If I click this top box here, you can see everything, and then I can go in and selectively choose certain records to be used for my mail merge, or I can click the box up here on the top and select everything again. This is a very useful tool because this allows you to kind of go in and kind of make sure that it's pulling the information from Excel the way that you intended it to be pulled. So you can see, I see the names going across, the street addresses in the right place, the cities in the right place, state, zip code. It's pulled the information as I was expecting it to be pulled. Down below, we have a bunch of different tools that we can use. Now, if you remember working in Excel, you were able to do, when you were working with data in Excel, you can sort and filter your information. So, for example, right now, the way that the information is all organized in the original Excel document and the way it came here, the order is basically entry order. So Naomi Rev was the first person they put in, and then Micah Harvey was the next person. That was just the way they entered it there. But suppose you wanted to kind of organize the way that the data comes in. You want to say maybe put it in alphabetical order or into like state order. You can come down here and you can sort. So if I click on sort, and actually let me just get this down here. This is very similar to the sort that we saw in Microsoft Excel. So you kind of think of it that, okay, so I'm going to sort by, in this case, let's do a sort by state. So we get everything in kind of alphabetical order by state. And I can choose ascending or descending. Ascending means that it would start at A and go up to Z. If I chose descending, it would start at Z and go down to A. And then within the state, let's say organize by last name alphabetically, ascending. And I'm going to hit OK. And so now what it's done is now it's gone and it's now organized. So we have our entries from Alaska first, and our entries from Alabama, and then Arkansas, and then Arizona, and then within them. Like if we look at the people here from Arizona, it's now alphabetical by their names. And so it's just sorted so that when it gets put onto the label, this is the order that they'll show up on the label, sorted by state and then alphabetical by name. And so that's useful. Like if you're doing a whole bunch of mailings and you want to send it out, you can and say that there's certain states that you have to get say done earlier because it's going to take longer to send it to them there or such. You can get those states done first. You can sort it in that order there. The other tool that you can use here is you can filter. So like here, I have this whole list. I have a whole bunch of different people on here and such, but suppose I just wanted to send information to people from, say, Missouri. I can choose to filter my information as well too. I keep sticking this right up here. Let me move this down again. There we go. So what I can do now is in the filter, I can tell it, say, let's choose the state is equal to, and I'm going to do MO for Missouri, and I'm going to hit OK. And now it only shows my entries from Missouri. In fact, actually what I need to do. And so now when I continue and do my mail merge, it will only send the mail merge, like create the labels for these 6 people because these are what I chose for my mail merge. So you're able to order the things in the order that you want to. You can sort them into the order that you want to sort them, and you can filter them so that you're only seeing the specific ones that you want to work with. Like, I mean, if I wanted to, I could specifically like filter to like zip codes if I wanted to. Some of the other tools down here is we have things like find duplicates. This is very useful. What it'll do is it'll go through all of your data and it will find, and it'll kind of pull out anything that's a duplicate and let you know, okay, this year these people have the same address, or this entry is the same there. It allows you to kind of clean up that information a bit, which is good because if you're doing mailings and you're doing labels, it can get expensive and you don't want to be sending things off. You don't want to send off 2 things when you can save a little bit of money and just send it to one. Find recipient basically is what it is. Allows you to find a specific entry if you need to use it, like if you wanted to remove or add them to the mail merge. And then validate address. This here is used. You have to tie this usually to a paid service that you have with the Postal Service or Stamps.com. That what it'll do is it'll go through your data and it will make sure that the addresses that you have entered match the addresses of the that they have in their databases, like the Postal Service has in its database or Stamps.com has in its database. Because again, you don't want to put together a whole bunch of labels, go put postage on them and mail them and end up with like 2 or 3 of them coming back to you, or just ending up in like dead letter offices because the addresses don't exist or they're incorrect. So the validate address is there. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to turn off, clear my filters. So we're just going to do everybody. And I'm going to hit OK. So it's going to go through. I'm going to hit OK. And so now you can see now is that something's starting to show up into my labels now. My first label here is blank, but then all the other ones are saying next record. So we're starting to get a sense of how the mail merge works. Is that over here, we're going to have our first record, the top line of our database is going to get entered into this box here. And then it's going to go through it and it's going to hit this next record thing. It's like, okay, and then it's going to move down a line and then it's going to fill in the information from the next record, move over, hit next record again, move down a line, and fill that out at that point. So now what we're going to do is, now that we've selected our recipients and they're in place there, you can see over here, if I need to, I can choose a different list. So I can, if I also realize that, okay, this wasn't the list that I wanted to work with, I can select a different one. I can also click Edit Recipient List, which takes me back to this window here that I can do my filters and sorts like I had before. So now we're going to move to our next step. We're going to move to step 4, which is arranging the labels. So this is when we're actually going to be putting the information onto the labels to be printed. Now, people have been doing mail merge in Microsoft Office since Microsoft Office showed up about 30 years ago. So Microsoft has gone in to kind of add things in to make it as convenient as possible. So to start off, they offer actually some prearranged information, like information blocks that you can put onto the label. Because the most common thing that people are doing in mail merge is they're doing mailing labels or printing onto envelopes, and they want to put in like an address block. So instead of having to go and build the address block manually, choosing the first name, then the last name, and then the street address, and then the city, the state, and the zip code, I can just click the address block here. And what it'll do now is it'll open up this Insert Address Block box. And you can see now it automatically assembles the information from my Excel file into kind of the familiar form of a US address, because we're working with US addresses here. You have some things you can work on here. You can choose how the name gets presented. And so you could do things like just a short name. You could do things like a full name with a suffix on there. Now, like here, I have Joshua Randall Jr., so it's a first name, last name, suffix selected. But I did not have a suffix column. There was not suffix information on my spreadsheet. So this is something that can be added in, but it won't automatically assume it. That information has to exist in your spreadsheet for it to be able to be included on there. So the same thing down here where we have like the salutation on here. Because my spreadsheet did not have a salutation on it, I can choose this, but it's not going to change the information over here because it's not going to change the information over there because what am I thinking of? Because I don't have that information in the original place. So you can choose how it arranges the names. Something like this here, like it won't be able to make connections unless you have like spouse information on the spreadsheet. So if you want to be able to do something like a salutation, like a Mr., Mrs., Ms., you have to collect that information in your spreadsheet originally. And if you want to be able to do something like a married couple on here, you have to have that information on the same record, on the same row going across. Or we're just going to go with Joshua Q. Randall. We're going to actually Joshua Randall Jr. here. Moving down, we have insert postal address, so it's actually able to assemble the address together. If I turn it off, you can see it disappears over here. And then there's format address according to the destination country or region. It recognizes that these are all US addresses, so it's automatically formatting them for US addresses. If you're mailing internationally and you have like the country in there and such, it will format it for those specific countries because they might have different address kind of layouts. Over here, you get kind of little preview of what it will look like. And so this is the first chance that you get to see to make sure that all of your information is being assembled together properly. Now, because our spreadsheet that we built in Excel had a place for first name, last name, it automatically so we put those into the right place. Street address, it recognizes that's meant to be the address, city, state, zip code. Now, if I had done, say, different labels on there, I had said, say, well, town, it probably would have pulled. If I had done city, town, it might have pulled that over as well, too. But if these here don't match, there's this box down here that says the correct problem. So if it looks like out of order or missing, basically what it's done is it's the mapping of the field. So the fields that you have in Excel aren't matching with what Word is assuming them to be. You can come here to match fields, and now you can kind of correct it there. So for example, like if I had said it said name and name or whatever, and it had say you had the names in the wrong order, I could then come over here and say, okay, so first name, we actually mean last name. Actually, let's say first name. What happens if actually I had the name in like the phone number box there? So we do that there, and I hit OK. Yes. You can see now that instead of pulling the first name over here, it's pulling the phone number because I told it that the first name is in the column named phone number. And it's not right. It was actually right before, so we're going to change this back to first name, and we'll do OK. Yes. So now, and then I can actually go through, and if I click using the arrows here, I can go through from step 1. I can step through all of my different addresses and see how they look, to see whether or not they actually look correct. And anything that doesn't look correct, I can go in and I can go back to my original recipient list and I can fix things in there. I can go back to Excel and fix those individual things in there. So it's always useful to go through 5 or 6 of them, just kind of a random check to kind of just make sure. You can type in a number, so I can type in 50 and see what the 50th one is, just to get a sense of what those, just to make sure that everything's assembling properly. So once you're happy with all this information, your preview here is looking the way that it is, just click OK. And you can see now what it'll do is it's added this little section that says address block within these kind of like pointy brackets into the first label. And what that's saying is, okay, we're going to stick an address block, boom, right here into the label. Now you'll notice that all the other records, this address block doesn't show up in all the other records. So if I went and printed this right now, I would only get my first address block here, and then everything else would end up being blank. So I need to go over here on the right under the Mail Merge Wizard. There's a Replicate Labels section there and such, and there's a little button that says Update All Labels. So I'm going to click that, and what it'll do now is it will take what I did in my first label here and copy it to every other label on the page. And so now we can kind of, again, we can kind of see how Word is going to assemble these labels here. It's going to put together the address block from the first record that I created. And then it's going to come over here and it's going to hit this little instruction that says next record. So it's going to move down a line on the spreadsheet and create the address block from that row. Then as it moves over here, it says next record. So it's going to move down a line again and then assemble the address block and so on down through the labels. So once we have this here, we've put our address block onto the label. We're now going to go to preview your labels. And what this is going to do is this is going to give us the opportunity to see how our labels actually look on the page. Now, one of the first things that I notice about here is that they're all kind of pushed up against the top right corner. So if I come up to here, come on, and hit, no, that didn't work. So what I need to do now is I'm going to go back to my previous step where I have the address block here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually say, oh, come on, why are you not, all right. Nope. Why can't I? Okay, hold on. We're going to actually delete this. Why are you doing that? Oh, I know what happened. Hold on. Because I deleted a line way back when. Hold on. Let me go back. And we're going to do label option. Oops. Change document layout. Let me just reselect this here. So, yes. Okay. There we go. Now, because I ended up deleting some things. So I'm going to go back. Sorry about that. Arrange your labels. Stick in my address block. Okay. There we go. Now it should look, update all labels, and go to next. And now it kind of looks a little bit better. This is still up at the top with all those other ones. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go here. And Update all labels. Why are we still stuck up at the top of this label? Update all. Okay, whatever. Whatever. You can actually reorganize and kind of move things around. Next. So we're going to our preview here. Move that down to another page. But yeah, so there are ways to kind of adjust kind of the spacing. I don't know why things aren't just working nicer for me as they usually are. But yeah, so it should line up the same way as it all does here, going through. But this again gives you a chance to preview how your labels will look. And you can see right up here at the top, we have our preview results. I can step through using the back and forth arrows to see how all the different pages look. And so now if I wanted to, I can make changes. I can edit the recipient list here. I can, as you can see, I can go back and forth through the different steps that I've made. I can go previous, next. So once you're happy with how the labels here look, we now move to the final step. So step 6 of our mail merge. So this is just a preview. This allows you to kind of see how it all looks, but the mail merge isn't done yet. So I'm going to do next, complete the merge. And completing the merge, it basically assembles the file and gets it ready for printing for you. And you can see there are 2 options that show up here. The first one is print. And I'm going to tell you right now, never, ever, ever choose print unless you're absolutely sure that everything is perfect and ready to go. Because as soon as you click print, it automatically sends it off to your printer and starts spitting out the pages. And if there's any mistakes or errors, they just start going on the page. If you haven't loaded your label paper yet, it just starts printing onto regular paper. So what I always recommend is to do the second option that says edit individual labels. And it's like edit individual labels. We don't want to edit them all. But what this does is you can see when I put my mouse over it, it opens up it shows a little tooltip that says merge to new document. What it does is it takes our preview here and it's going to open up a new Word document. So I'm going to click this here and I'm going to choose, we're going to move merge all records. Okay. And what it does now is it's opened up a new Word document where I can go and I can see, if I scroll down page to page, I can see all of my individual labels in all the different pages. So this spreadsheet here is going to make 7 pages of labels. And you can see the last one, there's some blank labels that are printed out there and such. But it'll show up it'll show all the individual labels. This is also useful because now what I can do is I can save this document. I can go to File, Save, and I can save this document wherever I want and say next month when I want to print labels again. And I haven't made any changes to my spreadsheet. So my spreadsheet, all the people who are receiving this are the exact same as they were the month before. I can just go open up this file and go print. I don't have to go do the mail merge again from month to month. Because this is once I've done it, I can save this and use it as it is. This is also useful because what you can do actually is if you can actually go and print your first page here. So if I go to File, Print, and I say page 1, and what it'll do is it'll print my first page. It'll print page 1. And what I'll tend to do when I'm printing labels is I'll print this first page onto blank paper. So like a blank sheet of paper, like what we have here. And then what I'll do is I'll take that paper and I'll take, say, my labels, and if I hold them up to the light, I can then look through and I can see, is everything here lining up onto the labels properly? Is everything aligned properly? So that when I print onto the labels, it doesn't say cut off like the left edge off the edge of the label or something. So it's just a way to kind of save money, save your labels, because labels are expensive. So always kind of print that first one onto paper, check it, and then you can go through and you can then print all the pages going out to your, you can choose which tray you're printing and print out to the label specifically. So I'm going to close this because we don't need to keep this open. Don't save. So yeah, so just as a reminder, when you're printing labels, you want to go to and do edit individual labels. So that is mail merge with labels. I know I was saying I was going to give us a chance to stop and allow people to kind of walk through, but we're going to do that a little bit for our next exercise, in which we're going to look at how to do a mail merge into like personalizing a letter. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to close my mail merge document. We're not going to save it. And I am going to open up, there was another file that was available on the online-tech-classes page, the mail merge exercise.docx. So I'm going to open this up, and what this is this is just a sample letter that's been written. Enable editing. Let me zoom in to make it clearer for you to see on the screen. And so you can see on this letter here, we have things like we have the address of the person receiving the letter here. And then it's like a salutation, so dear, and then the first name. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to go in, and right now this letter is written specifically to Angel Corazon. We're going to actually update this letter using mail merge so that when we could print out a whole bunch of copies going to all of the people on our contact list that makes it appear like they're personalized. And instead of using the mail merge wizard, we're going to step through the individual steps of the mail merge, and I'll just show you the other way that this can be done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to mailings. Once again, so we're starting in mailings here, and we're going to start with the start mail merge button, just like we did before. But instead of coming down and choosing step-by-step mail merge wizard, I'm going to start with letters at the top. And so you can see also the different types of documents that we can create using mail merge. There's things like letters. So you can have personalized letters, email messages. Once again, there's that connection between Microsoft Word and Excel, because you need Excel for to have the organizing the information, and Outlook, which is another Microsoft Office program. Envelopes, labels. So we did labels last time, right before. You could also do it onto envelopes. So if you didn't want to have separate label sheets, you can print directly onto envelopes. You can do a directory on here. For this case, we're going to choose letters. So I'm going to choose Start Mail Merge Letters. And we're working our way from the left side of the ribbon over towards the right. So in the next step that we have here is we have Select Recipients. So this is, again, remember on the Mail Merge Wizard, we had that step where Select Recipients. So I'm going to click on the box, and here are my three options again. Type a new list, use an existing list, or choose from Outlook contacts. In this case, we're going to use an existing list because we have an Excel spreadsheet already created. I'm going to browse to where I have that spreadsheet saved. So I've saved it in my Microsoft Office integrated folder, and it's the Mail Merge Exercise XLSX file here. Open. And I want the catalog request. I want the second worksheet on that document. So you can see I could choose the different worksheets that I have on there. In this case, I want the second one on there. I want to make sure that my checkbox for first row of data contains column headers is checked because I wanted to use that information. And I'm going to hit OK. And you can see nothing's changing down here, but all of a sudden up here, we got some new things that lit up. These used to be grayed out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to allow you to take 2 minutes, open up the mail merge exercise.docx file, go to the mailings tab on the ribbon, do start mail merge letters, and then do select recipients, use an existing list, and choose the mail merge document that you downloaded from the website at the beginning. So take about 2 minutes, and then we'll continue with the mail merge process. All right, so I hope you've started your mail merge and chosen your select recipients list. So moving over, continuing along from left to right on our ribbon here, we have our Edit Recipient List button. This is now lit up because we have a recipient list to work with. And so if I click on this, this will open up our familiar mail merge recipients. So this is the same thing that we saw when we were using the mail merge wizard. So what I'm doing, I'm just kind of showing that the mail merge wizard and what we're doing here, there's direct analogs. It directly matches what we're doing. The mail merge wizard just kind of takes you step by step through it, which is just a lot more useful instead of remembering all these individual steps. So you can go in, you can choose your selection, you can sort it, you can filter, you can find duplicates, you can do whatever you want right into here, just like we could before. Once you're ready, you can hit OK. And now we're moving over into the next section of buttons here on the ribbon there, which is called Write and Insert Fields. So remember before I was talking about how each column of information on our spreadsheet, actually let me show you here, each column here is a field of information. So there's a field for last name, there's a field for first name, field for street address, field for city. So each of those pieces of field, like last time when we did the mailing labels, we just chose address block, which automatically took those fields and assembled them into a standard address block. In this case, we're going to want to use the different fields individually. So what we're going to do is I'm looking at the letter that we have here, the sample letter, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the address that we have here with the different pieces that we have in our Excel spreadsheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the first name, and I'm going to come up here where it says Insert Merge Field. And you can see this is two different buttons again. If I click on the top part of the button, I'm going to get the Insert Merge Field box, and you can see now I have my different columns that I have in my Excel spreadsheet, all available right here. So this is the first name that I'm putting in, so I want to choose first name here. And I'm going to insert, and it will replace that name there with first name. So now we're going to close. And so now what happens is that I'm going to go and do the same thing for the last name. So I'm going to select this here. And as I mentioned before, this is like a two-part button. Instead of always having to click on this top button and go to the Insert Merge field and then choosing something here, I can actually click the bottom part of the button and I'll have a little menu that'll pop up that'll have all my different options here. So in this case, it's a little bit faster. I'm going to choose last name. So now the letter's going to say it's going to pull the first name from the spreadsheet and then the last name from the spreadsheet. For street address, we're going to highlight, and I'm going to insert street address. And then for the city, we're going to insert the city there. And you can see actually, you can see that the fields are going in. They're treating them like they treat like individual words in Microsoft Word. So I can do punctuation around them. I can do formatting. Like I can take like the first name here, and I can go and make this bold if I want to, and then it will make every name bold on every single document. So you can treat these like you treat other words in Microsoft Word. All they are is just this like little field that's going to be pulled from another source. So let me finish putting together the address here, and then I'm going to give you time to go and do this yourself. So I'm going to choose state, and then we're going to choose zip code here. Zip code. And then down here it says Dear Angel, and so that's actually the first name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to choose Insert First Name. So now it'll say Dear First Name from there. And what I'm going to also show you is just how you can also stick the fields into the middle of the sentence there. So thank you very much for inquiring about our wind products on. And then one of the pieces of information that we had was this request date here. So I'm going to do is I'm going to put in request date there. So now the sentence will say, thank you very much for inquiring about our wind products on request date, because that was information that we tracked in our spreadsheet. So take about 3 minutes. Take about 3 minutes, go into your document and replace the address that was there before by inserting merge fields up here. So you'll highlight the single piece of the name. So like if I chose like this, if I wanted to highlight, I highlight this section here, and I can go and insert street address, and it will cover over. Or you could delete that there and insert field address, but you want to insert merge field into those places and manually assemble the address here, and then you want to put first name into the salutation. And then after where it says inquiring about our wind products, add on and insert the request date. Take about 3 minutes and let me know if you have any questions in either of the chats. Okay, so hopefully you've been able to go in and insert in the different merge fields. So now we're going to continue our traveling from left to right across the ribbon there. We've done our write and insert fields here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go over and we're going to click the preview results button. So this is that same kind of like step 5 in the mail merge wizard where we're able to preview the results. So when I click on this button, it turns it on. And now what it does is it now goes and pulls the information from the spreadsheet and fills it in onto our into our letter here. So now we're able to kind of make sure that things line up properly. So here's the name, here's her street address, city, state, zip code, here's her first name, here's the address that she called and requested. And I can step through the different recipients and just kind of make sure that they all look the way that they should. So once again, I'm just kind of previewing and I'm seeing, okay, everything looks the way that it should. So now I'm ready to move on to the next step, which is finish and merge. So you can see we've started over here at start mail merge. We've worked our way to the right and we get down to finish and merge. So when I click on this, I get 3 different options here. So before when we did the finish merge, we only had 2 because we had chosen that it was a label. Here I have 3. So the first one is edit individual documents, which is just like when we saw before, we had edit individual labels. So what that will do is that we'll pull all this together and it will open up a new Word document with each page being an individual letter that we can then print out. Print documents, I'm going to say again, never ever choose print documents because it's unless you're absolutely certain that everything is correct. Because if you choose print documents, it's going to send it straight to the printer and start spinning out pages. And if there is a mistake or an error that you didn't check or miss, it's going to get printed out. Send email messages is still just part of the integration with Outlook, that it can actually take this letter here with the mail merge and send it off into Outlook and have you do emails instead of paper because hey, it's the 21st century and we should be environmentally friendly and send things electronically instead of by paper. But in this case, what we want to do is we want to choose edit individual documents. Edit individual documents here, as I mentioned, so I'm going to choose merge to new document. We want to merge all the records. I could choose different records. If I wanted to only do the first 10 or the middle 10 or the first 25, whatever combination I wanted to do, I can choose those there. But we want to do all because we want to get all of our different records on there. So I'm going to hit OK. And now what it'll do is it's opened a new Word document here. And if I go and scroll down, so here's one page, here's Naomi Rev's letter. Scroll down, we get down to the next page. Here's Micah Harvey's letter. You can see the different pieces that I put into there. Scroll down, we have Dante Levy there. And you can see we have 200 letters, so we had 200 entries in there, and so each page will go through and be for a different person created by the mail merge. And so at this point, I could save this, so I have a file saved with all of my individual letters. I can then go and print. Because I have everything here, I could print selectively. So if I go down and say, okay, I need to print Dave Paul's letter here, he's on page 8, I can go and file and just print page 8. And leave all the other ones in the file, so that I'm creating that one there specifically. So that's kind of the advantage of the edit individual letters, means that you get a file that has them all individually. You're able to verify that everything in there is correct, and you can print what you want to print. If you want to print everything, go ahead. You can print selected ones. You can save it so that if you ever need to pull up these letters again in the future and reprint, it's available without having to do the whole mail merge process again. So that is mail merge into an individual letter. So throughout this class, we've looked at ways to connect Microsoft Excel, Word, and PowerPoint together and use them collectively kind of as a greater whole. That they're really powerful by themselves, but they have a lot of kind of advantages to kind of using them together because they all have their own specific purposes. So things like Microsoft Word is really good at building a document for printing. Whether the document has just words, it has words, images, charts, tables. It's designed really well to kind of build something to print onto normal paper to come out of a printer. It even looks the way that it will look onto the page. You can actually see the page separations and everything. So that's Word's real strength. It's a word processing. It's meant to process words and to kind of be a little bit of a desktop publisher in some ways. PowerPoint is really good at putting together presentations to present information out to people, and that's kind of what it's built into. But you can pull information, say, from Excel, so charts and tables from Excel, and put them into there so that you can kind of jazz up in how things look. Excel is also actually really good for just kind of layout kind of things because you have so much freedom in how things get arranged and organized around onto each of the different slides. Excel is really good at organizing information, specifically numerical information, because there's a lot of math functions and math capabilities built into Excel. So it's a really good place to handle and organize data. In some ways, you can use it as like a miniature database, but anything that gets too complex or too complicated, you do want to go off to like a database like Access or like a MySQL database, something more elaborate, designed to organize large pieces of information. There was actually just an incident recently where the United Kingdom's COVID-19 data was actually messed up because they were using Excel and they actually hit the limits of how much data can be stored in Excel. So what they should have been doing is they should have been using a more robust database in that way. But for what you're doing on a lot of day-to-day data organizing purposes, Excel works really, really well for that there. So they all have their individual strengths, but then you can use those strengths to kind of augment the other pieces of software. So like in PowerPoint, you want to have kind of a chart or a graph that kind of really pops and shows. You can build that in Excel and then bring that over to PowerPoint as we've shown in this class. If you want to continue your learning for things that we've done in this class here, at the end of the handout, which is available on online-tech-classes, there is I have information here about accessing Udemy, which is the online learning site that the Ferguson Library gives you access to. You will need your Ferguson library card to access it. So what you'll do is you'll go to this link here, or you can go to the link from, we have a couple different places on our website, particularly the under the research A to Z databases, we have it listed in there. And then I've suggested some courses here that kind of cover over some of the stuff that this class has covered. These couple here talk about Word 2013, but as I mentioned at the beginning of the class, everything that you can do in 2013 you can match in later versions of Word and PowerPoint and Excel. So everything these classes are going to cover are going to also work later on in more recent versions as well too. So with that, I thank for anybody who attended. If you're looking for, we do have upcoming next week. Let me go to the class schedule here. Next Tuesday night, the same time, I'm going to be doing Introduction to Video Editing. We're going to be using the Lightworks software. Lightworks is a freely available video editor for Mac and PC. So you're welcome to go and download that and participate with me on the class next week. I'll have more information on this page by the end of this week. And then next Wednesday night on the 28th, I'm going to be looking at teaching how to record your computer using the open source OBS Studio software. So it's the software that I use to actually stream out to you, but it's also a really powerful tool for recording things that you do on your computer, whether you're doing tutorials, whether you're actually recording lectures for classes, because a lot of people are teaching from home nowadays and they want to be able to record lectures or video lectures. It allows you to kind of just record stuff on your computer, and you can do voiceovers and kind of put things together as video. So we're going to be looking at that next Wednesday. If you've enjoyed this class, I do hope that you will go and let me get the link up here. I do have a feedback survey available at this link here, www.projectoutcome.org/en/50673. This link is also available on the online-tech-classes page under the Microsoft Office Integrated Suite. There's a link that says survey link. You can click that and go here. I do welcome any feedback that you want to give me about this class. So with that, if there are any other questions, I'll hang around for just a couple more minutes to see if there's any questions asked in either of the chats. With that, I do bid you adieu and good night, and hope to see you next week. Please let me know if you have any questions, though. All right, I'm not seeing any questions, so I thank you once again for joining me, and I hope to see you next week for Introduction to Video Editing and Record Your Computer. And with that, thank you and good night.